still had hair and was 70 pounds lighter, they dumped all kinds of crap. Dumped it everywhere. A kid's playground had been built on top of the old pit they used to throw everything in. Hell, they even buried a couple of old trucks in there, leaking oil, tires still spinning. You could never get rid of the smell of exhaust in the summer. Nobody gave a damn about shit like that back then. Out of sight, out of mind, that was all that mattered. Not now. No chance. Everything had to be disposed of properly. Whatever the hell that meant. Ricky walked the length of the compound. It was the size of a football field, and by the time he reached the dilapidated warehouse, he felt it in his legs. He'd never been what a coach might call a natural athlete, but age seemed to be catching up with him just lately. Maybe Marcy was right about the deli. He unlocked the door to the warehouse, letting it swing inward on creaking hinges. It had been a year since he last came in here, the last stock count. He unhooked his flashlight from his belt and aimed the beam inside. More drums, more pallets stacked with shit nobody wanted. Most, if not all of them, had skull and crossbones printed on the side. Toxic, harmful, poison. The good stuff. He took a few steps inside. The noise was worse in here. The rain rattled against the roof like a bad drum solo. This was the stuff the company got twitchy about. They weren't too fussy about taking it in. The money was good, kept the place going. But it was dodgy as hell. Everyone who worked here knew it. Nobody had any idea what they should do with it once it got here. Let it rot away, probably. A couple of counties over, a town called Dead Crow had been wiped out when a waste plant discharged this crap into the river. Someone told them that half the town had been eaten by something, a creature that lived in the river. It was probably bullshit. Of course it was. But the point was, nobody had a clue what the stuff in this warehouse would do if it was dumped out there. That's why it was locked away. He flipped the soggy page on Pugh's clipboard and walked over to the light switch. 3 of the 9 strip lights worked. 1 fewer than last year. But nobody cared. It wasn't as if the place was used every day. He walked down the right side of the warehouse. There were a dozen more drums than his last check. He didn't know what they were. Didn't want to know. As long as the numbers added up, that's all that mattered. He reached the bottom end, counting using his finger to point at each container. They looked old, and he wondered how long they would last before the shit inside spilled out. Ricky shivered, moved along the back wall, and then started up the left side. More new containers had been dumped in here, all anonymous except for the warning labels on the side. That way nobody could trace where they came from. That was part of the deal, he was sure. The guys at the top were skimming money from the company. They took handouts and backhanders from places all over the state, all over the country, probably. It used to make him angry, but now he didn't have the energy to get mad. All he wanted was some peace and quiet, and, if possible, to get his lazy-ass son to move out of the basement and stop smoking dope all day. Fat chance of that. He walked quickly up the left side, thinking only about his deli sandwich and the coffee in the thermos. Another 10 minutes and he'd be back in the office. He paused. What was that? He checked Pugh's papers, leafing through the top few sheets. There were 3 extra drums in this section. He counted them again, pointing and then ticking on the paper. 16. There should be 16. So why were there 19? He rechecked the manifest again. Nope, he wasn't mistaken. There were 19. A smile spread out over his lips. Pugh had made a mistake. Oh, he was going to let him know about this. He was going to tell. Ricky chewed the end of his pen. Pugh was the foreman. He knew the management. In fact, that was the reason.